Happy Saturday, Buzz City. It's another classic night here at Spectrum Center. This time we're honoring three-time NBA All-Star and NBA All-Star MVP Glen Rice. The first 10,000 of you through the doors get his bobblehead. I'm Aaron Pitzenberger for Hornets.com. This is Matt Ruchinsky, and this is the HornetsFanshop.com pregame show. Matt, what do we have for the game day special?
You don't have to be one of the first 10,000 in attendance to get this offer on HornetsFanshop.com today. You get 20% off if you order right now. Anything, 20% off all stuff, and you get free shipping on orders over $40. Go out, spend, buy, get as much as you want, get it shipped here for free. Make sure it gets here, give it out to all your friends and whatever as we get ready to cheer on the Hornets and another big game tonight.
Yes, absolutely. We're coming off of a great win against the Kings from Thursday night. What did you like from that game?
I like the fact that I was terrified early on. It was kind of like watching a horror movie a little bit, where you start watching, you're like, why am I still watching this? And we're down 15-3, and this looks like things are going to go absolutely horrible. The starters got off to a horrible start. They'll acknowledge that. The bench came in and saved this game. They really turned things around at the end of that first quarter to make it a 5-point game, and then they went off, led by Miles Bridges, Tony Parker, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Those guys went off in the second quarter.
Now, what are we gonna have to see from them tonight when we take on the Suns?
We need to see this balance from this bench. Tony Parker said it in the locker room after the game. It was great to see that from those guys, but some of those names we haven't said in a little while, especially Miles Bridges. It's good to see him getting back on track. He hit a little bit of a rookie bump there. To see him get back on track the way he has towards the end of that road trip, and now in this game against the Kings, I look for Miles to continue to build on that, and the bench to continue to build on that against Phoenix.
All right, now we're not going to get a chance to play on MLK Day, right. So here's our video. Take a look.
We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
My I have a dream moment is when I had my son, October 26th, just raising him in a world full of equality and inclusiveness. So
my I have a dream moment, gonna be the first time my son came to see me playing basketball. My dad was a basketball player as well, so I don't have any memories to watch him play. So now to become a basketball player, to have my son in the stand, watching me with my wife, it means a lot to me, and I really want to inspire him to be a great person.
My I have a dream moment is to see my kids grow up in a world that's treated with people are treated with equality, men and women, black, white, whatever your race. I would definitely say that's my I have a dream moment.
And as we mentioned earlier, tonight we get to honor Glen Rice, our three-time NBA All-Star, our only one as of right now. Hopefully Kemba Walker can kind of fill in that position as well. But Glen Rice, we get to honor him tonight. How excited are you to see this?
You forgot to say the most important thing.
What's this?
University of Michigan's Glen Rice. Go Blue.
I don't think I forgot it. No, didn't forget that tidbit. Did not forget about that.
It's great to have Glen in attendance. We had him out here, obviously, when the 30th anniversary team was named, and to see his excitement when he found out what he was going to have and the bobblehead and the night that was coming to him was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm looking forward just to seeing Glen's excitement tonight, because every guy who's come in here for a 30th anniversary night so far has been absolutely blown away. And it's great to see the emotion and how powerful that has been in all of these halftimes. I'm staying out for it. I know you'll stay out for it. And then we get to talk to Glen afterwards. So I'm looking forward to seeing how everything goes for him, because I know this is a big, big moment for Glen.
What is it about Glen Rice that the fans here in Charlotte really loved about him when he was playing for us?
I mean, he might have had the best statistical season to ever come out of a Charlotte Hornets player. That year that he won the All-Star MVP, the way he played that season, I mean, you talk to these players that played around him, you talk to Dell, you talk to Muggsy, these guys will tell you Glen Rice might have been the best shooter to ever come through this building. Absolutely amazing what he was able to do, and really brought that energy and could close a game like no other. If you wanted somebody to take a shot, you knew Glen was ready to take it.
Oh, no question. He still holds the franchise's scoring average as 28.6 points, and so that's insane. You can't really honor that. You can't beat that.
That's something that a guy just has put everything together at the right point in time, and that's what Glen did here in Charlotte. He had a tremendous NBA career, but really needs to get more recognition. Chris Kroger will tell you over and over how much recognition Glen Rice needs to get in terms of his status among Hornets greats and Hornets legends just because of what he was able to do for some of the best years of this franchise.
Oh, no question about that. And you had a chance to sit down with him. Tell us about that before we go into it.
I mean, he's just, the energy was unexpected from Glen. You know, you sit down and you do these interviews with these players and you expect them to give you kind of the cookie cutter answers on things. But it was great to see Glen really passionate about what he was going to have done for him and how he was so excited about it. I just love the energy that Glen brought. And I could see why his teammates must have loved playing with this guy, because I was hanging around with this guy just for a couple minutes and I loved being around him.
His energy is infectious
Yes.
and contagious. Let's take a look at that interview.
I'm Matt Ruchinski for Hornets.com, joined now by Glen Rice. Absolute honor to be joined by you, Glen. One of the people named to the 30th anniversary team for the Charlotte Hornets. What does that make you feel like, knowing you're one of the top 10 Charlotte Hornets of all time?
That's awesome, man. I mean, even when I played here, it was an honor to be able to go out and suit up and play in front of the fans here. And now when they're having their 30th anniversary, to be a part of that and to be amongst the great and to see all the greats that are here, I mean, it's one of those life come true deals.
You know, there are a lot of greats that are going to be here tonight. To see you guys interact has been a joy to watch. Just you guys kind of going back and forth, ribbing each other. How fun has that been for you?
That's fun, man, because we get an opportunity to touch on all the stories that happened while we were together. And also, for me, even before I got here, became a Hornet, you know, I used to watch Alonzo and Larry and Muggsy and them out there playing. And I was in love then with how their uniforms looked, the color, and I think the whole NBA was. So, and then once I got the opportunity to come here and play, I realized that, you know what, I got to follow in some big footsteps, so I need to get busy quick.
And you did. You had an opportunity to play for some of the best Hornets teams of all time. What was your experience like playing for this team?
Yeah, that was a breathtaking moment. It was probably actually, when you look over my career, that was probably one of the best times that I had. You know, I was a repeat three-time All-Star. And a lot of that had to do with the guys that I was playing for, the coaches I played for, and also the fans that cheered us on. One of the things we always remember to do every game is to go out there and lay it on the line for the fans here. And they laid it on the line for us night in and night out. Even when we wasn't playing good, they gave us that extra energy and propelled us through the games.
I like how you just tried to I was a three-time All-Star. Also, you were an All-Star MVP. What did that mean to you to be able to hold that trophy that we see behind you?
Yeah, I tried not to mention that, but no, no, really. I mean, you know, just as an individual player, I mean, it was great. But then to be able to hoist that trophy and knew that I was representing the Hornets was an even bigger deal, because I knew how much the Hornets meant for me and what they had done for me.
Do you still ever get an opportunity to look back at some Hornets games? What do you think of this team right now?
I do get a chance to look at them, and I know you guys have another. See, I'm from Flint, and I know you guys have a Flint native on the team here, so you know I got to follow that very closely. And I think the Hornets, you know, they keep going out there and, you know, playing hard together, or things will turn around. They just got to keep battling.
Yeah, Miles Bridges is doing all right. He's a joy to watch in terms of how aggressive he is at that basket, isn't he?
I like that, man. As long as the young fellas stay aggressive and you know, continue to keep playing smart and hard, things are going to be good for him.
See, and that's a Michigan guy saying something nice about a Michigan State guy. That's very difficult to do.
Hey,
we understand.
You know, we always say once we're out of Michigan, we have to represent Michigan. But once we come neck to neck, yep. I'm sorry, Michigan State.
For you, another big moment will be on January 19th. The Hornets are honoring you personally. Yeah. What does that mean to you to have a Glen Rice night and get this bobblehead and things that are going on?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be an emotional night for me, because I understand, like I said earlier, I understand how the Hornets organization and playing for the Hornets, what it meant for me. It was an unbelievable run for me, and for them to honor me, I mean, you know, it's basically like a Glen Rice day. I mean, that's huge. You know, if I had to really put a finger on it and say it for every guy in the league, everyone probably would want that day for themselves, because it just shows the type of character that you are and how they believed in you.
Well, it was a very well-earned honor that you're going to be here on the 19th, and we'll be celebrating Glen Rice Day. Make sure you guys pick up tickets for January 19th against the Phoenix Suns. For Glen Rice, I'm Matt Ruchinski with Hornets.com.
Hornets fans, if you've ever happened to catch a game on TV on Fox Sports Southeast, you are now looking at the man behind all this magic. I'm talking about Fox Sports Southeast producer Scott Snyder. Scott, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Now, we really wanted to take a look behind the scenes and just really figure out what goes on behind a broadcast. So first, for starters, tell us how you got in this position right now.
Well, I went to college. I was a broadcast journalism major.
What school?
East Carolina University, the Harvard of the South. If you will.
Wow, debatable.
The Harvard of the South. Quick funny story, I was a political science major originally, and I had my first test, and I failed it so miserably. And it was a beautiful day, and I was walking back to my fraternity house, and it was about noon on a Tuesday, and I saw one of my fraternity brothers laying out. He was drinking an adult beverage, and it occurred to me to ask him, "What are you majoring in?" I want to be you. And he goes, "Broadcasting." I was like, "I'll be right back." And I went and changed my major that day. So
True story?
True story.
Wow.
And it took me 2 weeks to tell my parents I wasn't going to be a lawyer.
A lawyer? That's what you were going for?
I was going to be a lawyer, yes.
Well, it worked out for you, clearly. Now, how long have you been in the NBA covering the NBA?
This is my 17th season covering the NBA, and it is my 23rd season producing live sporting events.
Wow.
Which means one thing, I am really old.
I wasn't going to date you, but
I was going to go with really
Which is
stressed.
amazing since I'm 26 years old.
Right. I mean, I was going to go with
amazing, yes.
really stressed. Talk to our fans about, what you do in terms of producing a game. What is the stress level that comes with that, and how difficult is that process as you're going through it?
Stress level varies. The more prepared you are, the less stress you have. Preparation and organization in any job is absolutely the biggest key. For me, the preparation begins, if not the day before the game, if not weeks before the game, depending on the theme of the game. Like, for example, MLK Day coming up. There's things I've been planning and have been helped to plan weeks in advance of that. I mean, you just can't start planning that the day before. On a normal game, a normal Tuesday night versus whoever that's not a theme night, it usually begins during the previous game. I'll start thinking of storylines to do, particularly for the pregame show, that might be interesting to the viewers and that our announcers will feel comfortable. For me, the hardest part is the flow. I mean, there's a lot of great stories, but there has to be rhyme or reason to get from one story to the other.
Right.
You can't just go, okay, and now let's talk about this for no apparent reason. We're going to start with defense, and then we're going to go to a community event.
Right. How do we get there?
So that takes some time and some experience to do that, but there's a lot of balls in the air, and there's a lot of little pieces to the broadcast in terms of sponsored elements and phone calls. So as the producer, everything falls on you. Every decision ultimately is yours, with a lot of input from a lot of people. But ultimately, it's your decision because you're going to be the one that gets blamed for it.
All right.
So ultimately, you better have. There's times where you have to say no or guide them in a different direction just because you know it's right just by your experience, and that takes some time.
All right. So tell our fans out there, how difficult is it to deal with Del and Eric? These guys they tend to go off the rails sometimes. They're fun people to be around. How hard is that?
I had a full head of hair before I started working for them, and now, fans, this is what it's like. I am 22 years old. This is Del Curry and Eric Collins' fault. Stephanie Reddy added some of that too. I will be honest with you. I have worked, like I said, I've been here in the NBA 17 years and producing games, and those two and just the whole crew together, we have as much fun. It's as relaxed an atmosphere. There's a lot of trust, not only them trusting me, but me trusting them. It makes for a much more fun job to do. I have been in situations where not everybody got along. And that makes for a long season. And some, I've learned after a long time in this business, some people you can just never make happy. Okay, Del and Eric are not those people. In fact, they make my life very easy, and they and I think they're fun to listen to. And I think that the chemistry that we all have, particularly their chemistry, shows up on the air and makes it more enjoyable for the viewer.
Right.
Oh yeah, and we absolutely love to watch them. And obviously, these are not the first two broadcasters that you've been working with. This is your 23rd season, is that what you said?
23rd season producing
23rd
live events.
Season producing. So a fun fact about you is 3 teams with the same name, correct?
3. I have produced the Hornets in 3 different cities.
How does that
As
work?
home
Tell us.
teams in those
As home
teams.
Right.
And I don't know anybody else that's ever done that. So I was working for JP Sports here in Charlotte. When the Hornets moved to New Orleans, I got the job as the producer for the Hornets in New Orleans. After Katrina, that forced us to go to Oklahoma City for 2 seasons. So I was the Oklahoma City Hornets producer for 2 seasons. Then they moved back to New Orleans, and then eventually
And
Here we go.
back
They
here.
followed you back here.
Crazy, I got a call from the people in Fox asking if I was interested in returning to Charlotte. I came back to Charlotte as the Bobcats after that bad season. And the first game after that bad season, the first game I produced, we won. And I was like, what is all this losing you guys are talking about?
What's 7 wins all about?
Right. I was like, what are you talking about? We win every game. And then eventually the Bobcats became the Hornets, which Steve Martin, love Steve Martin, by the way. If it wasn't for Steve Martin, in a lot of ways, I would not be here. So much love to my Stevie. But Stevie and I argued, we didn't necessarily agree on how important and I'm not throwing Stevie under the bus, but he thought that the Bobcats was more important in some ways than the Hornets. He didn't believe that the groundswell of the Charlotteans to get the Hornets name back was as big as it was. It's not that he didn't think it was big.
Right.
And I disagreed. I was like, this place will go crazy if the Hornets come back. This is the Charlotte Hornets, with the jackets and everything, and now another generation gets to enjoy the Hornets as their own, which, it kind of comes full circle for me.
What do you think it is about the Hornets, per se, that you knew that fans were going to go crazy? Obviously, everyone loves the classic, but what is it about that nostalgic feel that you think fans were really looking to get?
Well, that was your parents' team, that was your dad's team, and your dad wants to pass that on to you, and your dad, it brings back memories, and your mom, of course, it brings back memories of your childhood, and he wants to. Now he's probably more apt to want to go to a game because this reminds him of when his dad took him to a game. So the fact that it's generational now with the name that should be here, I think is fantastic.
And you've seen a lot of players in your day.
Yes.
In and out.
Yes.
Who are your favorite guys to work with?
My favorite players of all time,
Yes.
let's
All
say.
time.
I loved, and the ones
You got to tell us why, too, obviously.
the ones that were the nicest to me.
That's the key.
And there were
Instant
some that
favorite.
weren't that nice to me, and I won't throw anybody under the bus. But the ones that are nicest to me, Baron Davis was always cool with me. I'm still friends with him to this day. Chris Paul. Chris Paul was unbelievable as a rookie. He was, first of all, I will be the first to admit, I never thought Chris Paul would be this good.
Right.
When I saw him like in
here we
college,
are.
I was like, yeah, he's a nice college player. He's a little small. Boy, scouting was not my
missed
call.
that one.
Chris Paul was nice. Tractor Trailer, Robert Tractor Trailer, God rest his soul, was always a good guy. The Tractor Factor, as we used to call him.
Go Blue.
And now, the current team, no question, Kemba is one of my favorites.
I'm sensing a pattern here. Point guard.
Point guard. I like
Tractor was not a point guard.
Tractor was not a point guard, but I will tell you this: when Tractor was in front of you getting off the plane, you couldn't see me. That dude was the widest dude I've ever. I mean, he was this wide. So, I like the big jolly guys and the small point guard.
You've also got a great story that fans have to hear about. You were on the court, the classic Alonzo Mourning shot, the one that every Hornets fan sits there and remembers and really is the anchor of their Hornets fandom for the most part.
True.
You were there.
I was there in a weird twist of fate and a harbinger, in theory, of things to come. I was hired. I'd just begun my broadcasting career. I was working for JP Sports. I was an associate producer, just started. TNT called JP asking if we knew anybody or if they knew anybody that could help them in certain things. My job was to sit on the court, they don't have this anymore, and hold a shotgun mic and follow, to get good sound.
Yep.
Where now they have mics already set and they don't need people. So I am actually physically on the court And like if they're inbounding the ball, I have to go like this because the guy be as close as Aaron.
Right.
So, like I said, a weird twist of fate. When Morning hit that shot, I was on that hash mark, literally parallel to the free throw line. So in a lot of ways, I was the closest person not involved with the team to that shot.
Right.
And the funny part about that is I literally, in my head, when he hit that shot, I almost dropped the mic and went and jumped on the floor. And I had to like there was angel devil. Like what would happen? I got to do this. Because in my head I was like, I will be on every media guide for the rest of time. This could be my 15 seconds of fame. Because you'd be like, you just see this. I had hair then. This kid flying onto the pile on top of Del Curry and Alonzo Mourning for no apparent reason, never knowing that I would eventually become the producer of the Hornets, which may not have happened.
And get to do a 30th anniversary.
And the 30th anniversary season. Not only that, I have probably rolled in that footage 512 times.
Probably.
And it kills me every time, like I could have been on that pile.
Could have been there.
And the worst part is, friend of mine that's a girl, we went to college together. She was a honeybee at the time. She is the first one at the pile. And she taunts me every time, like, you should have come.
Should've done
You should have come. You should have come. You should have jumped in it.
You're right there.
That shot's been shown a million times. You could have been.
That's so
all
funny.
you see from me is the camera one angle and you see the top of my head.
See, if we would have seen you, maybe it would have changed your entire career. You would have.
It could have. The trajectory would have gone
instead of behind it.
that way. Oh.
I did have a choice. All kidding aside, I had to make a decision very early in my career. Do I want to be in front of the camera or do I want to be behind the camera? And at the same time I got offered the job at JP Sports, I had also gotten offered the job as a weekend sportscaster in, I think it was Washington, North Carolina, tiny town. And I had to decide, do I want to be, first of all, I knew I was going to be ugly. So that was a fact. I was like, this is not going to last. This is not going to be good. And this is before ugly people were on TV all the time. You used to have to be good looking. But, and the fact that I didn't have to be, true. Is that not true? Back in the...
He's checking with our producer right now.
That is true. You had to be much, now, it's more talent than looks. So I could have made it now.
Yes.
But I wasn't that
We could have
talented.
hosted a heck of a show together.
I wasn't that talented, and I had to decide at that point, do I want to be a little fish in a big pond or a big fish in a little pond? And I went with the little fish for other reasons. Financially, it was a little bit better and whatever, but all seemed to work out.
Right.
It absolutely seemed to work out for you.
So far. I could be working at Bojangles tomorrow, and which would be a great job. Free blueberry biscuits for everybody.
Free. Oh, I like that.
Rounds.
So I won't be working there long.
Well,
Yeah.
Scooter, thank you so much for being here.
My
Definitely
pleasure.
a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure.
And if you guys can't be here to watch the game today, make sure to tune in on Fox Sports Southeast, 5 o'clock. Hornets Live is at 4:30, correct?
It is.
Absolutely. All right, well, make sure to tune in if you're not here at Spectrum Center. For Scott Snyder and Matt Raczynski, I'm Erin Pitzenberger. We'll see you next time.
We could have been Splash Brothers before the Splash Brothers were ever invented, him and I. Our shooting games were unbelievable.
Him and Dell was probably the two best shooters I ever played with. I mean, when you're a shooter, you're a shooter. I mean, you have that feel and that arc, and all you need is a guy that continue to get you that ball in the right spot. And for Glen, he scored so effortless.
Because he was 6'8", could shoot the lights out. He extended his arms on his shot so much that you could not block it. He could put it on the floor. He could post up with his back to the basket, take smaller guys on the post. Really ferocious competitor.
Glenn, is one of my favorite teammates of all time. Glenn is first of all, great guy, such a talent. We go back when we were 16 years old playing against each other in those international games, so we knew each other very well. Love the guy. He was a key player for us all those years.
He saw the game. He had a very high IQ. He understood how guys was playing him, and he just, he had that knack, and then when I had the opportunity to play with a guy that can stroke it like that, I mean, you just look over and just lick the chops because you know that, hey, 9 out of 10, if you get it to him, it's going in.
He was a fun guy to play with because you knew he prepared himself and he could go off for 40 or 50 in a moment's notice.
Very talented, can catch and shoot. I remember in a playoff game playing against Steve Smith, it looked like they were playing horse. Steve Smith would come down, knock down a three, Glen Rice would go back and answer. You know, each and every time they would come down. And again, one of those players you could just sit back and marvel at.
Glen was an unbelievable player, but when he played for us, he was the best player in the league next to Michael Jordan. He was 27 points, 6 rebounds, maybe 6 assists. When we traded for him, I didn't realize how good a player he was. You know, we thought there would be maybe a step back. Well, there was no step back with Glen. He was just unbelievable as a player.
And you look at a guy like Glen, he had the highest average of anybody who ever put on a Hornets uniform, 26. And that's the type of pressure he was under over every night. And he carried this team.
That's 13 points also. Rice upstairs.
We pushed each other in practice shooting the basketball. And we often had a little saying, I've used it on the broadcast maybe before, we call it matches. When you shoot the ball and it fiercely goes through the rim and the net sounds like you're striking a match. And we used to say matches because you're about to be on fire. We would often yell that out while the ball's in the air, while the other person was shooting, because we could tell, having shot together so much, we could tell when the other person's shooting whether it's going in or not. So we fed off each other that way, not only in practice, but in games as well, you know, trying to challenge ourselves to see who could have the better night.
The way he could get to his spots, post up, lob dunks from Vlade. They used to have this play where he would throw it inside to Vlade and then run to the basket. Vlade would throw it over his shoulder. You know, they connected on it so many times.
He was fun to watch and made my game easy, making those passes and even, you know, throwing on those balls on a rim and knowing that he's going to be there and dunk the ball. It was easy to play with Glen.
Award. Oh, what a play! Glen Rice, who can leap?
The All-Star game was in Cleveland, and for the first time, one of your players was out on the court in a leading role. And to see Glen Rice score 30 points and take the All-Star MVP trophy was just amazing.
One of the greatest individual performances, and arguably during the greatest individual season in Charlotte Hornets history, because he was just on a roll going into that All-Star game and maintained it during that game. And you know, the thing I remember about it after the contest was we're interviewing Glen Rice in the press room, and he was almost like a little kid because the questions kept coming that Michael had said, look, dude, you're hot, keep shooting.
Still on a run. Here's Rice, squares up, fires the three. Nobody's
Glen
a better
Rice.
shooter, Jack,
That's
than
Glen
Rice.
Rice.
But he got going, and the rest of the guys on the East were like, hey man, let's ride the hot hand. And they just kept feeding him and he kept hitting shots. And it was very similar to that season because he again, if you, that season I would say is the best Hornets single season ever. And that game, it was more of a continuation of what Glen had done throughout that season.
And a lot of people look, you know, they look at history of Hornets basketball and they say a 92-93 team with Alonzo and Larry, that was the best team that ever played. But if you look at the records of Hornets teams, there was a 3-year period when Glen Rice and Anthony Mason were with this team, along with Muggsy Bogues and Del Curry, guys like Vlade Divac and some of the others. And then there was 3 years where the Hornets got, I think it was 46, 50, and 54 wins. That 3-year period was the best period of the Hornets as far as their comparison to other teams in the NBA.